Hello, it's Ian, motorcycle specialist at H&H Classics, just here in Cheshire at Brian Ditchfield's collection. That's a nice collection of bikes spanning the decades really, from the 50s right through to the 2000s. Everything from race bikes to Japanese muscle bikes and more modern stuff. Ducati 916 is probably the youngest one. What we've got here are three of the really nice race bikes. These are really, if you went to a race meeting in the 1960s, these are the bikes you would have seen. All British singles. Manx Norton, probably the most successful, well-known race bike ever. Won TTs, Grand Prix, every rider of note back in the 60s, 50s, 60s would have rode on the Manx. This is a 500cc one. Again, beautiful condition, nice and original. Good history file with it as well, so have a look online at that. There's lots of information about that. Next to it would have been the bike that a lot of riders would have had as a sister bike. That's a 350cc. That's an AJS 7R. Always stands out with its gold painted timing cover there. That's a 350cc, and that would have been the sister bike to a lot of riders' 500cc Manx. Back in the 50s and 60s, again, a dominant bike on the short circuits. Most riders would have dreamed of having a Manx Norton and a 7R to race at weekends. So the next one along here is the Sealy 500. So it's a matchless G50 engine, the bigger brother to the 7R we just looked at, the 350 version. In the later 60s, Colin Sealy, a sidecar racer, started making his own frames, really giving these bikes an extra lease of life. The engines had not been developed for about 10 years, but by putting in a lightweight frame, they could make up for the deficiencies in horsepower with more lightweight and more nimble handling. So this kept the bike competitive into the early 1970s. Beautiful looking bike, bought by the vendor about 10 years ago, restored to a very high level, so it's a perfect example. And together with the other bikes, it's like a perfect example of what a paddock would have looked like in the 1960s. We also have quite a few other interesting race bikes in the auction. Probably one of the more interesting ones is a Triumph Trident. It's a 1972 X-Works racer, built for John D. Jeffries in 1972. He used it 72-73. Finished second in the TT, I think both years on that. Won various British Championship races as well. Genuine Rob North framed X-Works bike. 1974, when it was no longer competitive and the factory were probably struggling for money as well, it was sold to a collector, a racer and collector, Mel Farrar, who raced it for a couple of seasons and then put the bike away. The bike is probably, certainly according to Triumph, the Trident Rocket 3 Owners Club, is the most original example of an early 70s Triumph Works racer surviving. Unfortunately, most of the others that did survive were damaged in the museum fire 20 years ago and had to be rebuilt. So this is probably the most authentic example you can see. That's in the auction with an estimate of £45,000 to £55,000. That's lot number 300. Again, more information online. That comes from the Richard Darby collection. Now, Richard was a well-known person in Triumph and BSA circles. Ran a business called 3D Motorcycles. Sadly passed away last year, and was selling off his collection of bikes. This was the jewel in the crown of his collection, really, the Tony Jeffries bike. He also had his own personal Rob North replica he put together, his own race bike. Sponsored riders on it in the Manx. Finished, I think, second in the Manx Grand Prix at some point in the 90s. So again, a very well sorted, very well specified bike. Another Trident in his collection was an unfinished project. It was putting together what would probably have been a Slippery Sam replica. So a lot of the heavy lifting has been done. It's got new Lockheed brakes all round. The engine looks to have been sorted. Still needs plenty of finishing, but at an estimate of £3,000 to £4,000, that's a really good winter project for somebody. Another one we have in there is the Norton F1. The F1 was the replica of the rotary engine Norton's raced by Trevor Nation, Steve Spray, Ron Haslam. This is the first version they made, almost like a pre-production version. Went straight to Germany and was raced over in Germany for a number of years. One owner over there is eventually made its way back here and is going to be available in the auction next week. So this one is a 1980 Mike Elwood replica, Ducati 900 SS Mike Elwood replica. Mike Elwood staged to come back in the 1978 TT. He's now legendary in racing circles. After 10 years away, actually came back and beat the Works Hondas and everybody else. Ducati made a replica of the bike. This is one of the early ones. The first 200 they made actually have a fiberglass cover on the petrol tank. so they are distinctive. They started off at number 90,000. This is actually 90,078, so it's one of the early ones. So they're the collectible ones that people want. Bought by Brian, part of his collection many years ago. Put away for many years because he didn't have the money at the time to restore it. When he did start, it's had a fortune spent on the engine, complete respray. Everything's been done with this bike with a really thick history file of receipts and documentation of everything that's happened to it. So you've had a job to find a better prepared one, a better presented one. Again, more information online. If you have a look on the website, there's lots of information and pictures of this bike, but it is one of the first bikes, and that's the ones that people want. We also have quite a few other race replicas in the auction then. Mainly Ducatis. We have a Carl Fogarty replica. I think that's a 996 Carl Fogarty replica. All numbered out of the limited edition batches. Similar to that, Troy Bayliss replica. Again, Ducati. They're very much the shape of the 916, like we have here. We have the 916 Ducati here. That is a standard one out of Brian's collection. But the Troy Bayliss and the Carl Fogarty replicas are much like that shape, but numbered limited edition or homologation specials. Along that same theme, we have, I think it's a 2005 Suzuki GSX-R 750. Now that again is an official replica. I think that's number 37 out of 50. That's painted up in Barry Sheen's 1976-1977 World Championship winning colours. We had that bike at Stafford and again aroused a lot of attention because it is a very good looking bike. Low mileage, beautifully presented. So they're part of the sort of race replica section we'll have in the auction. So we also have what we'd call future classics perhaps, or certainly more modern classics. Having said that, bikes like this are already 40 years old, so they have got some age behind them. This is the classic Honda CVX 6-cylinder. Very few 6-cylinder bikes ever made. Kawasaki made one, BMW made one, but this is the most iconic one. Early 80s, typical Honda, high quality design, well made bike. Again, this one's presented in very good original condition. Things like the rear dampers have stayed original, they very often went missing. 6-2 exhaust, it's actually an aftermarket one, but a good copy of the original Honda one that it would have had on from new. This is in the auction with, I think, an estimate of about 10 to 13 off the top of my head. Again, more information online if you want to go online and look that one up. We also have something else a bit different. Mid-90s Yamaha VMAX. Unusual bike for the Japanese to make, made very much for the American market. As you can tell with the style, it was made as almost like a Shelby Cobra of the motorbike world, down to having the big air scoops, the big aluminium air scoops on the side there of the petrol tank. So less for top speed and more about torque and brute force power. Very original. Most of these bikes got modified. They were already a very quick, powerful bike, but people felt like they could make them better and probably always made them worse. But this is nice and original. Standard exhaust, some nice extras as well. The backrest carrier, crash boards, little screen on it. So a rare survivor. Estimated, I think, £2,500 to £3,500, somewhere around that area. Next one along the line is, again, one of the most iconic bikes of the 70s. The Z900 Z1 came out in 1972 and it's the first really quick superbike. The Honda 754 predated it, but wasn't much quicker than a British Night Commando or whatever, twin cylinder. But suddenly this took performance levels up to 130 miles an hour and started the old superbike boom. So very collectible, very popular bike in its day. Nice and standard again. It's got some of the mods that people would have done in the day. So it's got the pod air filters on and a stainless steel bespoke 4-into-1 exhaust system that Brian the vendor says sounds fantastic when it's up and running. Quite a few other bikes in this sort of vein in the auction. There's a nice rare Laverda RGA Sprint that was modified in this country by the importers. They took the RGA and made it look a bit better. So that's a bike worth about, well, looking again with a very realistic, I think £2,500 to £3,500 estimate. So we have around 270 lots in the auction, ranging from scooters to motorbikes. We've got little Honda monkey bikes right up to collectible superbikes, race replicas, genuine race bikes. The oldest bike, I think, is a 1911 Umbra 3.5 horsepower. The youngest one, a Moto Guzzi V85 TT adventure bike. So what have we got over there? Well over 100 years range of two-wheelers to look at. Quite a few projects. Projects are always good at this time of the year. It's a good time to buy yourself something to spend the winter nights in the garage. So if you're watching telly all day. Nice GT 750 Suzuki. The J model with the drum brake, lots of bits with that bike. It's sort of in one piece, the top end's off. It has a new freshly overall crankshaft included with the bike that's going to save £1,000 or so in rebuild cost, plus a few nice boxes of spare parts, so it's a very good starting point for a restoration. Another project we have there is a Rickman Matisse. It's a Rickman Matisse frame, the best part of a rolling chassis, supplied with a Triumph Tiger 100 SS engine in there. Needs putting together, needs lots of bits and pieces making, but a lot of the big items are there. So again, a good winter project to make yourself, which a lot of people talk about these Steve McQueen replicas now. They do a Steve McQueen official replica that's best part of £20,000. So it'd be nice to make your own version of that, put your own personal touches on it. Quite a few no reserve bikes as well, so again, have a good look at the website and see what there is there. One of the bikes that's very interesting, it's actually an Harley Davidson Cafe Racer. I'm sure when you look at the pictures, first of all, you'll think it's a Norbin or an Egley Vincent or something. They've even cheekily copied the HID badge on the petrol tank, but just using the letters HD to make it look like it's a Vincent replica. So a lot of nice work on that bike, and something different. We'll certainly get people talking at vintage runs and rallies with that one. Another no reserve bike, Suzuki RE5 Rotary. Now this bike has never been used, never been registered. It spent most of its life in France, we think, but it came to this country a few years ago, and it's literally as it would have come out of the box, brand spanking new. We had the bike at Stafford, aroused a lot of interest, lots of people asking about it. So that again is an interesting bike to look at, certainly at no reserve. Along the veins again of bikes that want a bit more work, there's an Norton Commander Rotary. Now then, that's a rotary engine bike, initially started life as a police bike. Most of the bike is there and would certainly make the basis for a race bike replica, I would imagine, with that one. Something a bit younger, again, interesting, fully equipped onto CBR 1100 Blackbird with panniers, top box, part of a collection, stood for a while, wants a bit of recommissioning, but it's a lot of bike and a lot of modern day performance for probably not a right lot of money. We have a good scooter section again in this auction, over 50 lots. Again, wide range of things, essentially Vespas and Lambrettas like you normally get with scooters, but some more unusual European bikes in there as well. Interesting lots, there's a Vespa GS160. That's been used in a lot of publicity for the film Quadrophenia when they brought out the books and they remastered the album. It was used for publicity. Comes with lots of memorabilia as well, does that bike. So have a good read about that one, because it's not just the scooter you're getting lots of extras. Another Quadrophenia connection, there's a Lambretta GP200. Used, known as Chalky Scooter. It was actually used in the film. It's the one they actually used for filming at the time. So a real part of scooter history, that. Bit more offbeat in the scooter section. There's a three-wheeler Ape, which is essentially a Vespa front end with a flat bank truck on the back of it. Always popular. Don't see them very often in this country, but very popular in Europe. And very unusual, we have a Vespa microcar. Most people have never heard of that, but that's a 400cc twin-cylinder engine, tiny little car, made by Piaggio, and only briefly, 15960 they made them before they decided to stick with what they knew best and stick with making two-wheelers. So again, some very unusual stuff there and some very collectible stuff in that section of the auction. So the auction is on the 30th, Wednesday the 30th of October. We have viewing on Tuesday the 29th between 1 and 6. Wednesday we open the doors at 9, so you can arrive early and start looking at the bikes. Make sure you check the paperwork that's connected with the bikes and the scooters as well. There is a bidder's registration desk, so as soon as you arrive, get yourself set up to bid, get that out of the way first, have a good look round at the bikes. Like I said, scooters, we're going to start at 11 o'clock with the scooters. That'll take us through to half 12 or so. Brief break, and then at 1 o'clock we'll start with the motorbike section, with over 200 motorbikes to get through. All the information you need about the bikes is online, and the process of the auction as well. So if you go to www.h&h.co.uk, you can check out all the information. There's numbers on there to ring up if you need any extra help. Most of the vehicles have a number on the bottom of the listing of the specialist who consigned it. So you can give them a ring if you want to know some more personal information about the bike. So yeah, 30th of October, Wednesday, we hope to see everybody there.